So yeah, of course, there is a city in China called Chongqing. And yes, there is a city also called Linglong. And yes, actually, I checked, there is a city also called Ding Dong. So that's not my point. That's not what I'm trying to talk about today. I'm trying to talk about 5 misconceptions that I had and a lot of people have about the Chinese language. Now, the stereotypical language that you probably hear that you think is Chinese is actually Cantonese. For example, let's have a little conversation here about going to get some barbecue. 你吃饭了吗？
你食咗飯未啊？
那我们要吃什么？
咁你想食乜嘢啫？
那我们去吃烧烤吧。
咁我哋去食燒烤啦。
我不要像上次一样吃了地沟油拉肚子。
我唔想好似上次咁食咗地溝油屙肚啊。
They sound completely different, don't they? So a lot of people actually think that because Chinese is a tonal language and there's 4 tones.
Ma, ma, ma.
That means that you can't use a tone of voice to kind of change your meaning. For example, if I say, wow, that's really great, or I say, wow, that's really great, a lot of people think that in Chinese you can't do that since there's 4 strict tones. Now let me tell you, the exact same phenomenon in Chinese exists just like in English.
那好吧。
Now another misconception is that Chinese is one language, and that's simply not true. Now, of course, we have different dialects and kind of different accents in America throughout the entire country.
Not like you think it is. It's not, because it's not like the show, and it's got they're thinking. Tennessee's got a thought. They're thinking about it.
But in China, the different dialects are almost like completely different languages. Now, of course, you've heard of Mandarin Chinese, and that's obviously the top dog. That's what most of the country, I believe 92% of people speak. But there's tons of other dialects like Cantonese, Jin Chinese, Hakka, and Minnanhua. Not only is the accent completely different, but they use different phrases to even greet each other, and different phrases and different grammatical structures. 你最近怎么样？近排點嗎？你喜歡嗎？你吃飽未？你去哪裡呀？弄過來以後吧。Obviously, these are completely different. Now, the good news is you don't have to waste your time learning these dialects unless you want to impress some local people. There's a local guy here in my city. He was actually from India, but he lived in Huizhou so long that he was in Huizhou when people only spoke Hakka. So he learned Hakka before he learned Chinese. And at the end of the day, now everyone in Huizhou speaks Mandarin, so it's not super useful, although it is kind of a cool party trick. Now, another misconception is that Chinese characters, or letters, as some people call them in the West, are like mystical runes. Now, actually, only 20 to 30% of the Chinese characters came from the oracle bones that everyone hears about. And actually, characters, although they're super complicated and hard to learn, actually are composed of all kinds of different radicals that make up each other. So it's akin to kind of an English alphabet, except much more diverse and much more complicated. But what that means is that a lot of characters are composed of the same radicals, so there's not some ancient or secret meaning behind them. For example, I'm going to aim this at the tattoo artists of the world. A lot of Westerners go into tattoo parlors thinking that they're going to get some epic symbol like dragon, or love, or trust, or friendship, or power. I've seen this tattooed on their body. And actually, what they've done is akin to writing the word in English, like dragon, on your body. Dude, check out my new tattoo. It's not cooler, and it doesn't have any more significant ancient meaning. I remember I was working years and years ago, and a woman kind of came up to the register, and I had just started to learn a few Chinese characters. This is in America. And she comes up to the register, and she has a character Li, which means power, on her arm. And I said, wow, that's a cool Chinese character. It means power. And she goes, no, it means the strength to overcome any adversity, because my mother had breast cancer and she got over it. And I said, well, it just means power. It doesn't have any significant meaning. And she was just all huffed and puffed out of there because there was some sort of cultural significance in her mind of her tattoo, when in fact, at the end of the day, it's kind of like getting English words on your body. Now, my last and final point is actually that Chinese is the hardest language in the entire world. You hear this all the time. And if you look at the much maligned, or the very famous FSI language charts, that's the Foreign Institute language in America, the military rates Chinese as a level 4 language. What's up? A level 4 language, which actually means that it takes the most time to learn and study, compared to the other languages, like even really difficult ones. For example, I learned Finnish when I was really interested in Scandinavia.
Haluan päivittää katsojille. Olen asunut Kiinassa 3 vuotta. Elämä on ollut hyvä.
Yeah. I must tell you this, Finnish is much more difficult to learn than Chinese is. Now, Mandarin gets a bad rep because what they do when they compile these charts and these difficulty scales is they put Mandarin in the top one because they're including writing and reading. And reading and writing in Chinese is absolutely one of the most difficult things you could do. The character system is super complex, and it takes forever to learn all the radicals and their composition. But the actual speaking of the language is much more simple, especially compared to a European language that might be a little bit more comfortable for us because it's related to English. But at the end of the day, Chinese grammar is much more simple than most Romance languages and European languages, and actually it didn't take me too long to pick up speaking in Mandarin Chinese. Thank you so much, Laowinners. I hope you like this top 5 misconceptions about Chinese, and I hope you're not scared off by charts and rating systems and people saying that Chinese is super hard to learn, because at the end of the day, it's not that difficult compared to other languages. It's just the writing and reading. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will catch you on the next one.